Hello, and welcome to the Too Many podcast. It's a terrible name, and we're probably gonna.
That's this one.
Yeah, we're probably gonna change that name. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know.
Eventually.
Eventually. Yeah. So today is the metropolis. Actually, no. I should probably introduce myself first. I'm Jared,
I'm Ryan.
and we know absolutely nothing about movies. No, we don't. We know we we know about movies. We've watched movies, haven't we?
Yeah, I'd argue that in a sense we're learning about movies by doing this podcast.
Yes. This is
You
education.
get to learn along with us as we vastly oversimplify things and like swear a lot and make vague allusions to Marxism.
Exactly. It's the whole point of this podcast. So today is the Metropolis episode. We watched this beautiful 1927 film that just happens to be 2.5 hours long. I didn't know they were capable of making 2.5 hour long movies at that time.
Honestly,
But it seems they were able to. It's a German film, and it is
yes.
considered like one of the first major science fiction films like that actually like dives into crazy sci-fi special effects and all that jazz. And so it was a interesting watch. Ryan, what would you say is your general thoughts on this film?
I'm very torn about it because there's a lot of things that I really enjoyed about it, and there's a lot of things that make me feel wary about recommending it.
Yeah.
If nothing else, the frankly absurd runtime.
Yeah, like I literally 10 minutes before I started watching it, because I was under the assumption that it was going to be like a 30 minutes long, like kind of a short film, like, because I mean what we watched last time was A Trip to the Moon, and that was short
17 minutes.
for 18 minutes, and this was the complete contrast to that. It's 2.5 hours long. It's now midnight as we're recording this because we started at like 9.
We started at 9.
So apologies for if I sound completely destroyed by being awake too long.
I'm not going to apologize. This movie's a trip.
Yes. So yeah, my general thoughts on this movie, kind of the same thing you said with like, it's very 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 contrasty, and like, do I recommend this movie? Is it like it's like a good based movie? But like, I think probably my least favorite part about the movie is the ending. But we'll get to that.
The ending really ties up the worst parts of the movie in a nice little bow, making it worse.
I mean, in the 1920s or whatever, when people were seeing this shit, it might have been like, oh yes, but no, I can't look at that shit. And so,
No. Apparently, we'll get into it. But apparently, at the time, people were saying that it was like trite and overly simplistic.
Yes, I mean, because like
it is both of those things.
You sit there for 2.5 hours, and it just ends with the most
And things just
bullshit.
Things get so like there's so much like bizarre, like almost psychedelic shit. So many like really inventive special effects for the time, and then it ends with like this total horse shit.
Oh god. So yeah, let's dive in. The beginning of this film.
As briefly as we can, let's summarize the plot.
Okay. So it's the future, supposedly. The future.
It seems like it.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't need to summarize too deep because it's a lot.
We're gonna go through most of the basic stuff and throw in some extra shit that we thought was funny or interesting.
Yes, so they're in the city that is Metropolis. Actually, I don't think it's named a single time in this movie. But
it's referred to as the Metropolis.
I mean, the name of the film is also Metropolis, and Metropolis means city.
Metropolis means big city.
When I tried to look this up on Wikipedia, it gave me the Wikipedia article for like Metropolis, the definition of the word. And I was like, no, yeah. Wikipedia, that's not what I want. You obey my orders.
So this movie, the basic premise is it's the contrast between the working class and the ruling class.
Yes.
Which is an interesting way to start, which, again, we'll get into it, makes the ending and what ends up being the overall message more disappointing.
That's like, I mean, it's very much this, like, very visible metaphor between the working class and like the upper class.
Yeah,
Because like
the lower class. Sorry,
no,
we open with these like toiling, miserable masses just trudging through this dark underground facility, and then we learn that this is where the working class lives.
yes,
And on the above ground, there's this gigantic like um Art Deco city that's all shiny, and there's like weird fake gardens and a giant fucking fountain.
yeah, it's very Manhattan-esque, but like taken
Yeah,
to the extreme.
yeah,
And like so like the just the contrast between these people who literally live underground and like their own, their own city in the caves. Not really a
yeah.
cave.
They literally have like a giant underground ghetto.
Yes, but I mean they have some, but they're like big ass skyscrapers though.
And they're like big brutal. Yeah, before I don't know if brutalism was really an established thing.
Yeah, if it wasn't, then this movie started it. No, I don't. I think it was an established thing. I'm not going to look that up now, but
we'll just say it is, and then if you're wrong, we won't worry about it.
yes, the real way to do podcasts.
When you get criticism, ignore it.
Exactly. And and then like so there's these people underground, and there's like where's the upper class people, and they're very like I guess visibly bright. Like there's this very like color eye. No, I mean it's not. It's a black and white film, but
it feels like everything's very radiant.
Yes,
and like everything's like exuding like a bright white light.
Yeah, like all the upper class people wear like white clothing or like kind of gray clothing, and then the lower class, working class people are all just completely in black. Like that's all they wear.
Yeah,
that's all they have.
And we learned that they're all numbered.
Yes,
it's pretty fucking bleak.
And that kind of brings us to this. So there's this upper class guy who's actually the son of like the mayor of the city. Well, I guess it's the master of the city according to the Wikipedia article.
The fucking supreme emperor.
It's like Jo Fredersen, Joh. I think that's with a Y sound in German.
Maybe. We'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yo. So Jo Fredersen is like the master of the city, and his son, whose name is I've already forgotten.
It's just Fredersen.
Fredersen, yeah, Junior. We'll call him Junior. Junior.
Let's just call him Junior.
Junior. He kind of witnesses his father kind of firing this guy. And when Jo Fredersen fires you, he means go to the city underground. You are done up here.
We missed something, I think.
Oh yeah, well we missed like a whole 30 minutes of content, but
Yeah, so I'm going to summarize it
You're better at summarizing than I am, Ryan.
So we meet our character running track. And then he's in some sort of weird fucking garden, like going around a fountain, chasing a girl, and then he sees a woman with a bunch of like, lower class kids in this upper class building, and he's just enamored with her. Junior is. Her name is Maria. We learn that later. And he follows her into the underground city and is just like totally awestruck. Maybe that's the wrong word.
Oh, you're right. He does follow her at that point. I forgot that.
He's like appalled by how dreadful it is. And at one point, there's some sort of accident and he hallucinates like a dark god.
Oh my god!
Turning it into like a slave trade thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
This movie is really interesting to look at. I will give it that. Visuals are a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that was like the first like big like here's what we can do with our budget type scene because we kind of witnessed like this worker struggling with the machine, and then like the machine just kind of explodes in a way. I'm not sure if it actually there was like an accident, I suppose.
Yeah.
And but Junior is like watching this happen and like hallucinates like almost like a sphinx, like all of a sudden being there in a place.
They name what it is.
What is it? What is it called?
Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves.
He's scrolling. He's scrolling furiously.
I scrolled past the summary.
I'm on the summary. Hold up.
The Temple of
the Moloch. Oh, that's a biblical
god
thing.
Associated with child sacrifice.
Oh.
And workers are being fed to it. So yeah, that's pretty grim. And then he sees workers being carried on stretchers after his hallucination ends, and he walks back upstairs and he's like, Dad, what the fuck? Holy shit, what the fuck? There was an accident. And then he's like, he talks to his assistant like, why did I learn about this from my son and not you, you fucking idiot? Not junior, senior.
Yeah, senior.
And then the person who is sort of the head honcho of the underground city, who runs the sort of central mechanism.
Yeah, they call it the heart machine.
Yeah, he comes in and says that they've found these plans in the pockets of their workers. And he again turns to his assistant and goes, why am I not hearing this from you?
Yes, and then that's where we get
to the part where he's fired.
Thank you.
And
for summarizing what I forgot.
This man is about to commit suicide.
Yeah, he like walks down the stairs and then pulls out a gun.
Like, and Junior stops him. He's like, I'm gonna try to do something about this. I'll meet you at your house. Just wait there for me.
Yeah.
And then he goes underground again, and the set pieces are just like
it's
in the best way. They're kind of terrifying. Like they're really great. And he trades places with this worker whose name is Giorgio.
Yeah, he is. It's like because he wears a cap, and on the cap it's written like his name and his number. I think it's his name. Like his number is 11811. Yeah, and that's kind of what he's referred to in the credits as, I think.
Yeah,
but I think it's like Giorgio or something.
Yeah, well, it's because Junior refers to him by name, and the sort of the goon. That's
yes, not a great word, the thin man.
The thin man who is working for Senior refers to him by his number,
yes.
Which is an interesting way to show a difference, like in dehumanizing them.
Exactly.
Again, this movie has a lot of very interesting ideas and a lot of great set pieces. Very disappointing. Let's keep going.
And yeah, so this worker, Giorgio, he's like working this like weird clock machine. It's like the goal of the machine is you like move the dial, the clock hand to the whatever light is on. It's fucking and like you're manually like moving these big hands. It's a crazy little set piece.
To great lengths to show that it's like really difficult.
Yes, like because Junior, he takes over the position. He's like, go be me, and then he's on like a 10-hour shift, and by the end of this shift, he's dying.
Like hallucinating a giant clock and shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, how long could 10 hours be? And then when he's finally done, he like stumbles away and like collapses.
I think he like calls for his dad at one point.
He does.
And so, what happens after that? I forgot.
Is this around the time when we learn about the inventor?
I think so. Well, yeah, somewhere around there. So there's this character. Does he have a name? I think it was.
He does have a name.
Rotwang. That's it.
It's Rotwang. I remembered it because I thought it was funny.
Yes, a lot of funny names in this movie. And so yeah, there's this inventor. He lives in the only like old house in the city. I assume it's old. It's like a weird like house with no windows.
Yeah,
it looks like it's made of concrete.
And it's got like pentagrams everywhere.
Yeah,
there's a lot of biblical stuff in this movie.
A lot of like devil imagery.
The Tower of Babel is like named and retold by.
Oh no, they literally stuck a movie in the movie.
But I don't.
We'll get to that.
I think they tell it wrong. If I remember the Tower of Babel story correctly. That's not important.
Yeah. So this is inventor, and the inventor is under the the employ of Senior, and Senior comes to him. I don't remember why he came to him. I don't think they never really explained why he was there in the first place. Oh, you know what? I know why he came. He came because he was asking him about the plans that they found in the workers.
Right.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, there's a memorial, presumably in this man's house, to Senior's dead wife, whom Rotwang was in love with, who died in childbirth giving birth to Junior.
Yeah, and her name is Hell.
Yeah, with one L, but it still feels pretty
very very apt for the rest of this movie.
Yeah. And so this inventor, who one of his hands is like made of metal, I think it's implied that it's an accident.
Yeah, like there's an
because
accident.
he's building a robot, um,
That
sort of, I guess, to replace Hell, but it doesn't really do that.
I mean, that's what he says. He's like, yes, because Senior doesn't know about this, and he's like, yo, I'm building your wife again.
And he's like, dude, this is really fucked.
But
And then
like,
we move on from that
yeah, he
weirdly
says, wait,
quickly for
wait,
this
hold up.
movie.
He says like there's this important little like line where he's like, I get Hell, you get the child, you get Junior, which is like, hold up, who, what, like, it's just weird.
Yeah, and then we move on weirdly quickly for this movie to deciphering the plans. And the plans turn out to be a map of the, like, underneath the underworld,
The
like the catacombs
catacombs,
beneath the
yes,
catacomb that the workers live in.
from 2,000 years ago, apparently.
Yeah, and we see into these catacombs, and the girl from the beginning, who Junior followed into the worker city, is basically preaching. And she retells the story of the Tower of Babel, but again, I don't think it's right. I'm not a Bible
It's
scholar.
close enough.
I stopped going to church when I was 5. That's my disclaimer.
Yes, as a Jew, whatever story I was told, it it's close enough. You know, I didn't want to sit through
Yeah.
an hour-long retelling of the Tower of Babel story.
And basically her message is that the Tower of Babel was invented and constructed by sort of like academics and utopians, but then had to be built by like workers.
Yeah, that's kind of the central
And
theme that they use this Tower of Babel story
and
as.
and this is a theme that I think can be done in a really interesting way. I was talking to Jared about it. There's a video game called Pathologic, which is a masterpiece in its own right. It's like a janky, beautiful wonder. You shouldn't play it.
Yeah,
There's a really great video essay about it out there.
yeah, by
But
H
a
Bomber
lot of
guy.
it, yeah, but a lot of it is about this sort of contradiction. And I think it comes to a more interesting resolution, which is that in order to reconcile these, there has to be great sacrifice.
Hmm.
Um, but in this movie, it's just about having a middleman.
Yeah, that. Oh, we've kind of almost spoiled the ending now.
But it's spoiled there.
Yeah, because they kind of talk about like there must be a
There's this,
mediator in this, and you know,
yeah.
because she's kind of
There's
like inciting a revolution, kind of, but she's like, no, there must be a mediator.
yeah.
And guess,
She's definitely like trying for reform instead of
yeah,
revolution.
and guess who happens to be at this little church meeting?
It's
It's
Junior.
Junior.
And he says, I will be the mediator. And that's, I think he leaves after that. And then I feel like such an idiot. They say her name so many times. Maria
Yeah, Maria.
is chased by Rotwang through the catacombs and not essentially, just kidnapped.
And it's kind of like a hilarious scene because he's just like waving his flashlight at her, and she's like terrified. It's just like,
It takes a really long time.
I mean, this is why this movie is 2.5 hours long, because it spends like a good 7 minutes just on that.
And sometimes it makes sense because they really wanted to make the most of these like really incredible set pieces and effects. But it does drag.
Yeah, I mean, this specific set piece was in like a cave. It was like very dark.
Yeah.
And it was
There
on
were
it.
some skulls, but it didn't seem like it was that wild.
Yeah, and so yeah, what's next? So yeah, he kidnaps her and brings her to his laboratory.
Yeah.
And Junior like I think this is, well, he takes her and he puts her in a cell, and that kind of is the gist of that. I think there's a cut in the scene after that though, where it's something else.
Is it where like the Thin Man is chasing the double?
Maybe
That's like
I think that's
Giorgio
it.
Dreyfus
Yes.
Jr.
Yeah. So because all this time, so Giorgio, or actually it's not Giorgio, it's Georgie apparently.
Just Georgie? Okay.
It's Gyorgy.
All
it's
right, so
GY
I
orgy.
added an extra O. I tried to make it a different language.
I mean, because I literally know someone named Giorgio, like actually who lives across the hall. So
Oh, right, yeah.
spelled completely different though. Um,
Um,
so
yeah,
yeah, so all the time while this is all going on, Georgie is he's taken on the kind of the life of Junior here, and
very briefly.
he goes he goes to like this club, I guess you could call it.
Yeah,
It has a Japanese name. It's called the
which is
Yoshiwara
interesting.
Club.
Which I find really interesting because Japan, especially in the like much later in the 20th century, like in cyberpunk, especially like mid to late 80s and 90s, Japan was sort of like because at that point Japan was a big technological innovator.
Mm.
But this is pre World War II. This was way before most people would associate Japan with technology at all.
Yeah, it's just kind of because I mean this the Yoshiwara is a red light district in Tokyo. And so, I mean, Japan was kind of this, I guess, was like a trendy place, maybe. I don't know, in the 20s.
Maybe.
But there's a Japan themed nightclub, is essentially what it
Yeah,
is. And so, I mean, this is kind of like, I guess setting the groundwork for that later cyberpunk influence
I think that's
in
a little bit.
sci-fi. I mean,
I think that's a
it's
little
not
bit
laying the
generous.
groundwork, but it's just kind of this cool little Easter egg, like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it sort of predicts what would be to come.
yes, foreshadowing,
And then after Georgie leaves the nightclub, he is accosted by the Thin Man in the
accosted.
same like cab he came to the club in,
Yeah, he
and
like grabs his hand, like he's like, my hand. He didn't say that because it's a silent film, but
and there's like a long scene of like this like sort of awkward scuffle.
this entire movie is just awkward scuffles.
There's a lot of awkward scuffles.
I love it.
Those are the moments where I think the slightly higher frame rate of old movies just really makes it
Really
seem very
shows.
strange.
It's just as they're like
Because like
scuffling all over the room.
gravity moves a little faster than it should.
Oh god. Yeah, and
Um,
so what happens after
is
that?
that then when we cut to Junior trying to break into the laboratory?
I think yeah, well yeah. So like he's trying to break into the laboratory because he hears Maria like screaming at the top of
Yeah,
her lungs. Supposedly it's a silent film.
we have to imagine.
And like because he's the what's his name Rotwang is like trying to take her and because we missed a little part. So in that whole church scene that was happening, all the while,
Broadway and
Yo
Senior
Fredersen
watching.
was watching along with Rotwang because they like went into the catacombs because he's like take me he's like because he found out about the catacombs. He's like, what are my workers doing there? And like they go to the catacombs, they watch this church thing going on, and so Yo is like, I want you to make this robot become her and then lead them to their own doom, essentially. Like make them
Yeah,
destroy, like make the workers destroy themselves
exactly.
under her like guidance, under her leadership.
Yeah. And so yeah, so that is what Rotwang is doing with Maria. She
Except,
gets put into this
yeah,
like capsule, like a capsule with a weird helmet on and a bunch of wires
that
connected to the robot.
perfectly censors, that perfectly censors
Yeah,
her with the way
basically scans her body and turns the robot like overflesh into a perfect replica of her.
because that's how it works, apparently.
I mean, this movie's wild enough as is. That's the easiest thing to accept.
And so yeah, but apparently she survives that, but we find that out later. But apparently, because it
Yeah,
looks like she dies, like she just kind of like goes and then she's dead. But like
goes
apparently not.
yeah,
Haha, psych. But yeah,
and
well, Junior never actually got to saving her. He got trapped in a room because he's stupid.
yeah. How did he get out?
He got let out. Remember, the door opens.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And
After
then,
the transfer.
and then Rotwang is like, she's with your father, which is true. I mean, because he got let out like kind of later, and so she must have already been with his father. And so yeah, so he goes to his father and he sees Maria the robot with his dad, and then fucking just hallucinates. Like he just does some mushrooms.
Apparently he goes like crazy ill. Like he gets really sick. And there's just this like bizarre, intense sequence where there's like a robot stripper and like biblical imagery and like death and statues of the 7 deadly sins come to life, and death plays a flute that's actually just a bone.
Wait, no, that was
really
that
funny.
I think that was later.
Was that not at this part?
No, this was. I mean, it was kind of crazy, but it gets crazier. Yeah, I
think that is during this part.
Well, I think we see it for the first time during this part. Oh no, we see it. Remember, he's at like a church before this.
He's at a church first, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. You're kind of introduced to these, like, there's these statues of like all the 7 deadly sins, and apparently death is one of them.
Yeah, and he's like, the footage is actually lost, but we know because it's just in text that he's like shown a book by a priest of like an apocalypse being caused by basically just a woman controlling a monster.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what the role Maria is going to play.
Exactly.
And we see that later where this is almost as disjointed of a summary as the movie is.
Exactly. This is the best way to learn the plot of this movie, is just us like trying to remember what happened in the movie we just watched.
In a mild delirium.
And so oh yeah, but like so he hallucinates, he sees some shit, and then he's falling, which is like my favorite shot.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
It's just him just like falling, and it's like it's just like a cool shot to see in such an old movie.
Yeah,
because usually they do that shit with like green screens, but
yeah,
green screens didn't exist because there wasn't even green.
Yeah, there was no colors. Again, the effects in this movie are like they're not amazing in the same way they would have been at the time, but like to know the trouble they would have had to go through to make it happen is like, Jesus.
Yeah, like the budget for this movie was about 35 million euros in 2009 euros, according to Wikipedia.
I converted that.
Oh yeah, you converted it. Okay, Ryan, tell me the number. What's the number? I will look it up for you, Ryan.
No, it's in the chat.
I know. I'm looking at the chat. $40,871,215.
Right.
Which I don't know what that compares. I don't know how that compares to like modern films, but that's
I didn't want to get
a big
the number wrong and sound like an idiot.
It's a big number.
Yes.
And so, yeah, crazy special effects going on. I love all of them. They're just so beautiful. And so, yeah, what happens? He's sick, and then he like he hallucinates again. There's like a weird guy at the foot of his bed, which is like my worst fear. I've always had a fear of just like waking up and seeing something at the foot of my bed.
You have sleep paralysis? Because apparently that's like the thing.
Yeah, that is like the thing. I mean, I've never had. I think I had it once.
I know that I used to have night terrors.
Yes.
But the thing about night terrors is that like 90% of people forget it.
Are you that 90%?
Yeah. So I just know that my parents were like, yeah, like you would just freak the fuck out.
Holy shit.
It's like, that's cool, man.
I don't think that ever happened when I was sleeping over at your house.
No, this would have been when I was like very young.
Okay. Yeah, so this man hallucinates more. And so like as Ryan said, he like shows him this book with like this and actually at the same time that this scene is going on, this is important. The robot Maria is like dancing in a crazy costume. In front of a bunch of rich people, and of course there's some fucking racism in this scene because
there has to be.
Because there does not have to be. There
does not have to be.
So there's
basically. I don't want to say just because it's still very insensitive and like completely pointless, but it's a few brief characters who like just like appear as heads that are caricatures of specific racial groups.
Yeah, and then there's some African people just like holding up
Oh,
Like
you're right. I forgot about that.
because she comes out of this
Oh,
like cauldron as like
no,
the
it's
beginning,
bad.
and like they're just like
Uh,
holding it up, and it's just like so, oh god, like
yeah, it's not necessary.
pure early 20th century, just like racism.
Yeah, weird, but like weird racism.
Yeah,
Like
like
it's hard to understand why it's in there.
Germany, come
Like,
on,
because
Germany.
like there's a lot of racism. I say a lot of racism is bad. Hot take, guys. Racism is bad,
Racism bad.
but most of the time, racism is doing something for someone. Like it's being a scapegoat generally, or an excuse to do something. This serves no purpose.
You literally didn't have to do it. Like,
Literally did not have to do it.
serves no purpose. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Anyway,
God.
um,
I think
and
that's
then
there's like,
he,
yeah, that's like, I think one of two scenes in this movie that really kind of are just like, oh, nope, that's not good.
yeah, that's not great.
There's like blackface earlier in the movie. It's like split second,
It's not good.
not good. So already, this director of this movie, not based. Please don't do that shit.
He said some slightly based things later, but it was mostly just about how he was disappointed with his own movie.
Yeah. So, fuck this guy. Fuck Fritz Lang.
I hesitate to say that, but this movie is not based.
Wait, fuck, he had an eye patch? What the fuck? I just found a picture of him. He's wearing an eye patch. Oh, this guy
I'll
looks
take your
so
word for
evil.
I'll take your
Oh,
word
he's
for
Austrian too. Oh shit. Oh, he's Austrian, German, American.
it. Yeah, he moved to America
The
after
worst
the Nazis came to
combination.
power. He moved to America after the Nazis came to power and got citizenship.
Oh, interesting.
So he was not a fascist.
Well, we don't
He
know
was
that.
well, he left Germany when it became fascist.
Well,
He would have
America's
been like,
fascist.
that's true.
He just moved from one place, just moved from one fascism to another.
As terrible as America is and has been, I do hesitate to say it is as bad as Nazi Germany.
Yeah, but
Still,
pretty bad.
all right. Back to the movie.
Yeah, back to the movie. Yes. So
He returns to, or the robot returns to the catacombs and starts stirring dissent,
yes,
which is
Dissent.
intercut with the hallucinations. And after Junior sort of wakes up, he goes back to the catacombs, and finds Maria being like, "We've waited long enough for an opportunity to peacefully
Yeah.
gain better lives for ourselves. The
Yeah,
time
we
for
don't need a
action's now."
mediator. Is
But
what she's saying.
of course, instead of being like, "Oh yeah, this is a bad thing," but anyway,
And so yeah, so like Junior comes in, he's like, no, you like, what are you fucking doing? And
no, guys. Just because the master's house is bad doesn't mean the master's tools aren't very, very good.
there we go. There's the quote.
Um,
I was waiting for some like Marx quotes.
I don't even know who said
Is that
that.
Marx? I think that was Marx.
I don't want to
Master's
misquote
tools.
Marx.
I'm looking that up.
All I know about Marx is that he said that communism was about eating ass and bullying gamers.
Nope, that's an outlet. Master Tools quote. Andre Lord. I don't
Okay.
know who that is, but
Anyway, Junior is unable to stop the mob of workers who, in the chaos, stab his double, who is protecting him. Stab Georgi.
Georgi.
Yarg.
It's like a Russian name,
Yeah.
which might be like it might be like a thing, like, oh, because I mean, this is like, because the people, like the upper class people in this movie are like predominantly, I assume they're like German,
Yeah.
and then like the lower class people might be like actual like minorities.
It's definitely possible. I don't know. I just know that the guy who runs the heart machine is named Grot, and we thought that was very funny.
Yeah, I like that name.
It's a good name. So then, the fake Maria and the mob destroy the facility, and like storm their way into the heart factory or the heart machine. And of course, this is all Senior's plan. And so he
Exactly.
says, like, don't interfere, let them destroy the facilities because, um, as they're heading into the heart machine, as the guy who runs it says, if they destroy the heart machine, the worker city will flood. Which, if you want to guess what happens, it's that
It floods. It floods.
it floods.
It fucking
And
floods.
the water kind of looks like blood, which is interesting. I don't know if that was intentional, but it works.
Well, for
'Cause,
like a very split second, when it's like coming out of the ground,
yeah,
it looks like blood, and it's
which
like,
makes
oh
sort of
shit.
sense because it's the heart machine
Yeah.
being destroyed. Um, and then a whole bunch of shit happens. Um, they
Well, you just skip over everything with a whole bunch of shit happens.
I'm sorry, that's what I say when I'm trying to remember what happened.
Okay, well, basically what happens is that, oh no, they left their children in the city.
Yeah, and
And
so this is after several cuts to them basically doing Ring Around the Rosie in the wreckage of the machine.
that's
And the
my
guy who runs it,
favorite
it's like,
shot.
you guys, what the hell? Where are your kids? And they're like,
I like in the middle of that scream, you just cut out. That was beautiful.
perfect, ideal.
Um,
And then they he's like, who told you to destroy the machine? And they're like, the witch did it.
and
And
then
then they're like, let's go get her.
we get an
And then, of
adaptation of
course-
the Crucible.
And then, of course, the real Maria is mistaken for the witch. But eventually they find the fake Maria, and she's the one who gets burned.
Oh yeah, and the children
then-
are fine, by the way.
But then Junior mistakes the fake Maria for the real Maria until it melts. And then Rotwang mistakes the real Maria for the fake Maria. And this part's annoying.
It's so annoying. It's just going back and forth between which one's. Well, we know which one's which, but
Yeah.
because actually it's very easy to tell which one's which because the person who plays Maria, she does a beautiful job of like differentiating her acting between the two characters.
Yeah, she has this really like inhuman sort of gait, and her eyes are never open in the same way.
Yeah, and then as Maria, she's like, kind of human. Like she the way she acts is just.
Fake Maria never stops smiling. Did you notice?
Yes, I saw that.
Even as she's being burned alive.
Yeah, like she was laughing as she was being burned alive.
Junior chases Rotwang on top of the building where he's chasing the real Maria. They climb up on a roof, then they fall off the roof,
Well,
and then
they didn't fall all the way off the roof. They kind of
they fall off of the mini
fell
roof onto
down
the main
the
roof.
roof, and then they're fine. But then Rotwang kind of gets kicked off the roof, and then apparently he supposedly he dies. We don't actually see him die. There's no actual. The only thing that you see actually die in this movie is the robot.
Yeah. And then, I shit you not, almost the movie is like not even necessarily almost done yet, but it feels like immediately after this, Junior gets the two forces to shake hands and then everything's fine.
Yeah, that like just all of a sudden, like, hey guys, like so we forgot to mention that the mayor, or the master, whatever, the city is here all of a sudden because he's concerned about his son. He's like, oh fuck, my son is like gonna fall off the roof or something, and so
it's this sort of this parallel of like he endangered their children and now his child is in danger.
yes,
Um,
and yeah, so he's like there, and all of a sudden the mob is like, oh my god, it's literally the guy who's enslaved us practically.
let's get him.
Let's get
And
him.
They don't.
Yeah, they don't. I
And
mean,
they
this
don't.
is a crowd of like thousands of people. They
Yeah.
could have just run at him and he would be trampled.
They could have trampled him to death.
So, but yeah, so he's spared for some reason he's spared, even though I probably would have fucking trampled him.
Yeah.
And then so the oh yeah, what happens is that they come together on like the front of this building. I don't know exactly what building it is.
And they fucking I feel like such an idiot. I'm looking at the page and I can't
Oh,
read.
the guy Grot. Yeah,
Grot
Grot.
and Grot and Senior are like gonna shake hands, but then they don't, and they like it's this weird moment where it's almost like the vibe it gives me honestly is like two kids who like each other but are afraid to say it,
Yeah,
which is like really weird.
because I mean, Grot was literally like he reported directly to this guy.
Yeah, like
So,
Grot has no beef with this guy.
or at least not enough, it seems.
Yeah, like
Even
he's
though
so like
even though he's
loyal.
literally like the leader of the workers' revolution right now.
Right, kind of.
I mean, he became the de
Anyway,
facto leader after the robot died, or
yeah,
they went to go go burn the robot at the stake.
right. And then Maria, real Maria, is like, oh, they need a mediator to link the brain and the hands,
It's with
and
the
then they shake
power of
hands.
friendship.
They shake hands, and the movie fucking ends.
Literally just says the end. Like, no, what? What?
It's like, oh man, this is the most fucking centrist ass movie.
Yes, that's exactly what I
Oh,
was looking for to describe it. It's the most. Yeah. So
and yeah, and that's literally just how it ends. That's how it ends.
shake hands with your boss,
Shake hands with your boss, and everything will be okay.
or at least no, shake hands with your boss, but shake hands with your manager, and then have your manager shake hands with your boss.
Right. Yes.
That is how you do it.
And okay, so the problems with this movie. There's a lot of really good things about this movie, but I want to talk about the problems because they're pretty interesting problems and they're easier to talk about with just saying, like, just look it up.
Number one, racism.
Number one, racism. Number two, the working class are really kind of infantilized.
Yeah, it's like a caricature of the working class.
They're really shown to be like kind of dumb and very, very gullible.
Yeah, like extremely gullible to the point where it's like literally a mob.
Yeah. Um and the ending definitely leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it's very much this like a solution for the working class written by the upper class.
Yeah, exactly. In fairness to the director, he did later say that he was really, really disappointed with the movie because he realized later on in his life, after he got more politically active, that the ending was kind of horseshit.
Yeah. So
So I'm gonna give him some points for that.
I mean, so apparently this movie was alleged to be communist.
Which is
Like, I mean, this was in like the
Party.
height. Not the height. It was like a decade after. Well, when was the first Red Scare? At least in the U.S.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I know that the Nazis were really fascinated by this movie, which is part of why the director came to loathe it.
Mm.
Um,
I just read a sentence. H.G. Wells described the film as silly.
yes, I like that summary. That's all you need. That could have been the 2-second podcast.
There we go. Thank you, H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells described this movie as silly.
I like to imagine that was literally the entire review of it. It's like he like writes a review in the newspaper and it's just one fucking word at like 100-point font.
Exactly. And then eventually, later on, people were like, "No, this movie's actually really fucking great."
Yeah. Oh, except
Roger
for
Ebert. Roger Ebert, a critic who has the wrong opinion 100% of the time, said that it is one of the greatest movies of all time because it is audacious and angry in its vision.
I
Which
mean,
is such
what?
trash.
What?
This is for a movie that is so visually provocative. This movie's message is the least provocative.
Yes, like, it's a plot slapped onto like a visual masterpiece.
Exactly. It's so sad. I haven't seen the anime or the manga adaptation. You've seen the movie version?
The movie adaptation of the manga that was written by Tezuka Osamu, which was adapted from literally just a poster of this movie.
Yeah, very, very loosely based on this.
Yeah, and I think
did you say that movie was better?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but Honestly, I don't think it's as strong of a film. Like
Really?
this film, because of the time that it was released and the craziness of its visual effects, and
That's true.
it's just like it's just that special of a film. I mean, the anime adaptation of Metropolis is, I mean, it's a very good looking film, and it uses and it does some like unique things with CG. I mean, it was released in 2001,
Right.
so but it like kind of it also is not very strong in kind of the plot. I feel, which I
Yeah.
guess is the curse of being a Metropolis movie, even though there's literally only two of them that I
Yeah.
know of. And so yeah, so what we were talking about? Oh yeah, the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction calls this story trite and its politics ludicrously simplistic.
And I am it. I would tend to agree with the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction.
Yes.
Um, Oliver Clarkson called it unconvincing and overlong.
Unconvincing and over. Oh, that's perfect.
Faulting much of the plot as laid on with a terrible tectonic heaviness and unnecessary amount of philosophizing in the beginning of the film as soulless as the city of its tale.
This is brutal.
Yeah, so people are really fucking going at it.
I can't.
And here's the fun thing about the original reception. Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels was impressed with the film's message of social justice.
No.
So Hitler had said he wanted Lang to make Nazi films. And Lang said, "Oh no," and he left. So,
Oh god.
so
Yeah,
again,
I love when Hitler comes and says, "Yes, I loved your film. Can you make me some more?"
and again, that's part of why I'm so torn about this movie, because I don't think I'm worse off for having seen it, and the visuals are really fucking impressive, and like, you know, the performances themselves are really good.
Oh, the acting is splendid. I love it.
But just the story is, it leaves a lot to be desired, to put it very, very nice.
If I were ranking this movie on myanimelist.com, or is it .net? I don't remember. It would get like a, you know, pretty high scores for all those categories, and then like and then like a fucking like 3 in the plot.
Yeah, overall maybe like a light 6, strong 6.
Yeah, light, medium 6.
Yeah. So again, I don't know whether I want to recommend this, because you know, part of what I'm doing this for is just to have fun and for my own thing, but also like I like telling people about things that are good.
Yeah.
And I like talking about what is good about something, what's not great about something. I think it's, you know, interesting as sort of a learning thing, and just sort of like
Right,
it's good for communication.
you're literally describing like how humans work.
Right. But I genuinely do not know if I want to recommend this movie or not, because it's really important for science fiction. The acting is great, the cinematography is great, the effects are great. The story is horrible. it's so astounding, the dearth between them.
It took us so long to get through the plot, and still it's fucking terrible.
It's not good.
And I think the thing is with the anime Metropolis is, I think what made it slightly better is that there's less plot.
That probably
It's
was
just because this felt like this felt like if you took the plot of that and then just spread it thin.
because part of me, this wants to be sort of, okay, I don't know that much about film history, but one sort of early film history thing that I'm actually really interested in is German Expressionism, which is the vague movement this movie falls into. Because that was about, instead of trying to capture like a real situation, it's about trying to capture emotion through visuals, basically.
Mm.
And I think this movie wants to be that, but there's too much plot.
Yeah, too much plot. Needs less plot.
That makes sense? Because in a lot of senses, the visuals could speak for themselves. But then we get like these big title cards about this like weird nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, this literally just could be like 10 minutes of just fucking like setting shots. And I would be like, yes, 10 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic.
This is brilliant. I think a documentary about the movie would be more interesting than the movie.
Oh God, yes. There must be a documentary on this movie. Has to be.
There's got to be, right?
Yeah,
but
at least a couple.
Anyway, brief aside about German Expressionism. A movie I would recommend in that style is the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is like one of the first like really psychological like horror films. And the sets are all like janky and wonky, and windows are too big, and nothing is straight.
Ryan, we're not allowed to talk about horror films on this podcast. It's called the Too Many Horror Films Podcast. I mean, Too Many Horror Film Podcast.
I just wanted to mention that because if you want an example of that is a really great example. So yeah, again, if you have 2.5 hours to kill and are willing to overlook some of the more egregious plot issues, this movie is great to look at, and the acting is really great. Like the makeup, I noticed a lot, which isn't a bad thing. It has sort of the surreal vibe of the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they use so much fucking makeup.
Yeah, and the lipstick is really, really dark.
Makes it like feel like a cartoon at points where they're just like like an inch deep in makeup on their face.
Yeah. And the design of the robot is so iconic, and like for the time it must have been fucking like amazing. Like holy shit!
I didn't know how they did half of the shit they did in this film, especially with the robot at the beginning.
So, yeah, how long have we been going?
I don't know. I can't. 51 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, we should probably start wrapping it
up. We'll wrap it up. Warning, this movie will turn you into a Nazi.
No.
That is...
No, Jared, I don't like that.
Yeah,
I think I need to add... I don't know if I will remember to do it or not, but I think I need to add to our thumbnail, this movie is silly, H.G. Wells.
This movie is... We need like a review from Hitler. Like, what specifically would Hitler say about this film? H.G. Wells says it's silly.
Hitler says it's great. Us, we're not sure.
Okay.
So if you have 2.5 hours to kill, which, like, by God, if you do, more power to you, I guess.
Yeah, imagine having...
It's a really interesting movie, and it makes me so sad that this is what the plot is.
Time to remake it. Let's go.
Let's remake it. Well, honestly, I think Ghost in the Shell a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I literally said it during the part where the robot is turning into like the humanized robot where it looks like a human.
Yeah.
Where it looks like Maria. I was like, this is the Ghost in the Shell opening scene. Like, this is where that came from. Has to be.
Yeah. So this is an incredibly influential movie. It's really well directed and really well acted, and the effects are great. Maybe don't watch it. That's the review. Maybe don't watch it.
Great movie, don't watch it.
Yeah, great movie, don't watch it. It's way too long, and the plot is disappointing. Don't watch it. Maybe like look up someone talking about it.
Yes, watch a video essay that is longer than the movie itself on the movie, but do not actually watch the movie.
I think that person will probably have more interesting things to say.
Yeah, if H Bomber guy makes a fucking video essay on this fucking...
I'm still waiting for his fucking Vampire the Masquerade video. God damn it.
Is he working on that?
He's alluded to it like 7 times. This is no longer the podcast.
Oh my god.
Thanks for listening. Great movie. Maybe don't watch it. What was your sign off last time?
It was
a good evening, morning, or lunch.
Yeah, it was have a good evening. Yeah, you said it better than I could.
Have a good evening. Have a good morning. Have a good lunch. Peace out.
Yeah, can't forget dinner though.
Oh, well, I think dinner is part of evening, wouldn't it be?
You can have dinner at 1 a.m.
That's true. I guess, but is dinner about the food or the time you eat it? Isn't that like the distinction between dinner and supper?
My grandpa says supper.
Time?
He calls dinner supper.
Dinner refers to the food?
You know what? I'm not going to discuss this. See ya.